Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America Trading Corporation. You are tuning in to our most recent podcast episode of The Secret War on Cash, where we discuss things that are changing, things that are developing in our financial markets, in our economy. Today I have with me a favorite guest, one who is very much involved with the pricing of gold, pricing of silver, purchasing of gold, purchasing of silver for Swiss America. Dustin Anderson, good morning, and how are you?
I'm doing well, albeit a little chilly here in Arizona. I don't think we signed up for this. It was 38 when I left the house. So, but beyond that, I'm doing okay. Fighting a little bit of a cold, so I apologize to the audience if I'm a little flimmy, as they say.
Well, it is cold and flu season, so thank you. If people like you didn't have it, we wouldn't have a season. So appreciate your
My
contributions there.
pleasure. My pleasure.
So, well, let's talk about. We're roaring into the year 2024 already. I mean, it feels like the holidays were 6 months ago. Speaking of which, I hope your holidays were fantastic.
It was good. It was good. Got together with the family. No fights. Everyone got along. So in my book, that is a success. Had everyone over to the house, cooked up a big prime rib, Yorkshire puddings, mashed potatoes, doing a little bit of spinach just so we could tell ourselves we were still healthy. And it was good. Very
Well,
good. Thank you.
Tell you what, one thing with you when it comes to food, I know you do it right. So that sounds fantastic.
Gotta eat.
You do have to eat, and you do eat well. So that being said, you're responsible getting into eating and your expertise, if you will, your knowledge, your prowess. You're responsible for literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gold transactions with Swiss America each year.
Yes.
The article that we're highlighting here is talking about gold prices hitting highs of as much as $2,300 this year, which would be a sizable gain from its current price points. In earlier podcasts, we've seen numerous other predictions stating gold prices could top as much as $3,000 by year's end, $3,000. We will only know whose prediction is right 12 months from now. But in all the articles and indices that I follow, the one thing that I can say is I haven't seen much of anything saying that gold is doing anything other than go up over the course of this next year. So I guess the question I have for you is, what type of things do you see happening right now that is driving these price movements?
A lot's been happening. I mean, even just the first day of the year, January 2nd and January 3rd, were some of the strongest days that we've seen in consumer buying here at the firm in a couple months. So it was just a busy first couple of days. The thing I like about this article is that it does present sort of a worst case, best case scenario. And, according to UBS, if the worst case is good for gold and best case, according to JP Morgan, is going to be great for gold, I'd say we're going to be doing okay going into 2024. Both those scenarios are obviously positive for us. And it goes on to talk about the projected rate cuts that are going to be happening. Historically speaking, rate cuts, whenever the interest rates drop, dollar weakens, and gold prices rise, traditionally speaking. That said, the Fed tends to be a little behind the curve. Usually they're behind 12 to 18 months, it seems like, with some of their policy changes or decisions to raise or lower interest rates. A lot of times they're chasing problems as opposed to being proactive and being out in front of things. So, there's a lot of people saying that could be too little too late, and that whatever happens, even if they think that they're going to the inflation problems in this country have been solved and that now it's time to start dropping rates. I don't know. I don't see the dollar strengthening anytime soon. Yes, we're going to have little ups and downs along the way, but when you look at decade by decade by decade by decade, we haven't seen the dollar strengthen over a 10-year period from its previous 10 years, really since the early 1900s.
Sure.
But, and again, as the article mentioned, you have ETF buying is way up. The public is loading up on ETFs, which is good for our industry. It's an indication of a strong market. Coupled with the fact that you've got central banks buying record amounts of gold right now, and they're projected to continue to add for the next 5 years. So
we've been seeing a lot of that over the last several years. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have no intention of stopping anytime soon. So it really kind of makes you wonder, what do they know that they're not talking about? It's almost one of those instances where you have to watch what they do, not what they say. Because of course they're just going to try and say that everything's rosy just because they don't want to cause a run on the banks. But at the flip side, they are bloating up on gold. So the article finishes up with the correlation between the strength of the dollar and the value of gold. And again, the weaker the dollar gets, the better it is for gold. And there's not a lot of economists out there or experts or whomever that project a strong dollar over the next 5 to 10 years. So yeah, it should be good for our market.
Well, and it was especially, in fact, in just a previous podcast that we did, the further development of the BRICS alliance. I mean, that alone is a direct move of dollar abandonment. And how do you gain strength in a currency or in an asset or an investment of any kind when you have people basically dumping it? It's literally impossible.
Yeah,
So
it's a great
it'll be
point. It's a great point because you have to create that strength, and it's an artificial strength because the rest of the world is saying no, thank you. We're going to dump your dollar. So that is why now the biggest holder of U.S. debt is not foreigners, but it's us, the American
right,
people. That they have
right,
to create this shell game where they rob Peter to pay Paul, and it's just the Treasury and the Federal Reserve just buying all this stuff up and putting it essentially the public on the hook. So they have to create
right.
some artificial strength. So that's where we're at.
Well, thank you for that. And as gold has, really been at the capturing a lot of the headlines in terms of commodities and metals, um, as much as there has been all that talk about gold, it's almost like silver recently has been screaming at the top of its lungs, "Look at me."
Right.
These two metals tend to trend the same over market cycles. But in the 30 plus years I've been in this business, it seems like when the market runs, they battle like siblings for the top spot. There's no doubt that metals have settled into a comfortable spot as a safe haven, excuse me, as well as a top performing asset class. But the real story is what's driving them. You've touched on that just a moment ago. There are industrial uses, monetary uses, uses of investment hedge, jewelry, and several other uses as well. Do you agree that silver is a strong play as we head into 2024, as the article on the screen now would indicate?
Yeah, I personally, I absolutely do, and I think silver is sort of the little brother yelling, "Look at me." I think that's an apt metaphor, and savvy investors are certainly looking. I would say a wise man once said that if you think of gold as is the horse, silver is the jockey, meaning it's along for the ride, and I agree with that. Now, gold has been doing very well. Silver is one of the more undervalued areas of the market. I know last year I've been buying silver, and I'll continue to buy silver. It's not my biggest position in my metals personal holdings, but I do think it has a place in it. And while even both are precious metals, because a lot of clients call us up and they ask us this question: what is the difference between the two? And while yes, both are precious metals, but gold is more of a monetary metal. Silver is also an industrial metal as well, and the article goes on to explain a lot of the industrial uses. And I thought what was interesting, the biggest takeaway from this article is from 2023 projected to 2033, industrial demand is expected to continue to increase pretty strong, and I think that is a good thing for a metal that is driven not primarily by, but a big factor being its industrial uses. So I
Sure.
would encourage people to take a look at that article because there's, it's interesting. Historically speaking, I think people have been aware of silver's antimicrobial or antibacterial properties, but it is one of the best conductive metals out there. I believe it's even a little bit better than gold as far as conducting electricity. But they're now using it with different alloys, aluminum, I think, being the fourth most conductive metal, and an alloy between the two of those are now using it for different antimicrobial applications, and it's interesting. But even with some of the fuel cells, now that they've found different ways to replace some of the platinum metals, meaning platinum, palladium, and rhodium, with
Yeah.
silver, it's probably not so good for people that are holding platinum for investment purposes, but it certainly bodes well for silver over this next decade. So, but I think there's a lot of upside potential, and that is one of the things that I recommend to a lot of people who are just trying to figure out, does silver belong in my portfolio? Is there an advantage to silver versus gold for me? And I would encourage each and every one of them to call up and speak with any of our representatives who would be more than happy to explain how silver can be a good fit for their overall holdings. It's not for everyone, and that is something that I think our representatives really excel at, is helping people understand, an overall picture of what their holdings are. And there's no one size fits all for anyone. So how can gold affect them? How can silver affect them? We don't charge for education, and one of the things that we firmly believe in is by getting yourself educated, getting some answers to some of your questions, learning how the markets work before you decide to commit to doing anything one way or another, is the best way to avoid making any sort of mistakes, financial mistakes. And we're happy to get anything answered for you. Any of our representatives would be more than happy to spend some time answering those questions.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned a moment ago, people ask, what's the difference between gold and silver? And over the years being in this business, I know of people who have said, well, one's yellow and one's white. And, the response to that is, we do understand there is white gold out there too.
There's white gold.
As you were saying that, I was reminded of the number of times I've heard that over the years. But anyway, well, thank you for all that. It'll be interesting to watch. A lot of news information coming down the news wire that is looking like it's going to spark an increase in metals. As you see on your screen, or you can get it in your link, we do have that offer, a very special introductory offer for people wanting to maybe dip their toe in the water and try getting some silver for the Walking Liberty half offer. If you haven't looked at that already or called one of our representatives to discuss it, please do so. Or if you just like some information, do that as well. You can reach us at 1-800-289-2646 or visit us online at swissamerica.com. Thank you so much, Dustin. We will continue to watch this. Look forward to having you back at some point to give us an update on how 2024 is looking. For those tuning in, thank you for doing so. If you're not subscribed, please do that as well. And leave us some comments. Let us know what you're thinking, and follow us on social media, as we'd love to stay in contact with you. So I'm Dean Heskin. It's been Dustin Anderson. Dustin, thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year. If we can still say that. I don't know where the cutoff is, but Happy New Year. Happy 2024. And we're on to bigger and better things this year.
It's your and my first podcast of the year, so we can certainly say Happy New Year. So,
all right, perfect.
Thank you for those tuning in, and Happy New Year as well. And we look forward to the next time when we have some information that like I say, that will kind of give us an indication of how our 2024 is looking. So until we have a podcast again, best to you, and see you soon.
Yep. Take care, everyone. See you soon.